Hello everyone, welcome to Additional Intelligence. My name is Olasukomi Ayeni. Today we'll be discussing sector investing, how to filter opportunities in viable sectors with Mr. Opeyemi Adesina, founder of Adesina Assets. How are you doing today, Mr.
Very
Adesina?
well. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. The first question would be, does the performance of a sector an indicator when you want to invest, or there are other factors that you put above that?
Oh, well, if the performance of a sector is a major determinant
Yes.
before investing, I would say it's a determinant, but there are factors I would place above that because industry hype is a thing, bubble is a thing. So it's not really about this sector is making waves. What business in that sector am I putting my money into?
Wow.
So there are other factors that you want to look at. For example, I think traditionally, if you look at the fact that, okay, this person is doing this business and is making money, I also want to go and start the business. You know how the story
Yeah.
ends. So the sector performance is an indicator that this sector is viable. Someone making money there or someone thriving there is an indicator that, okay, there's potential here.
In this business.
But that's just like a green light, right? It's now dependent on what business in that sector, what team do you have in that sector. A food business can be thriving in a particular location, but your food business might not be thriving, probably because of your customer service,
Yeah.
probably because of the taste of your food. So while sectoral performance or industry performance is a key factor, right? Because there are industries that are on decline. So why they can be a good factor, there are specific indicators in the particular business you are trying to put your money into that you might need to look out for. The team, right? The products. What was the product's uniqueness? There's a whole lot of hype around, for example, in Nigeria now, the financial technology space, right? But as much as there's the buzz of investors investing, we're also hearing the buzz of companies dying, companies folding up.
Yeah.
So as much as industry performance is a good thing, is a key determinant, I think there are factors that are actually above it before you can say, okay, is the sector worth investing in or not? Yeah.
Awesome. That's really insightful. What are the signals that will show that a business is actually really viable to you?
Okay, now when I'm looking into investing in a business,
Yeah.
right, it's not just about, there are a lot of factors that people look out for.
Yeah.
Right. I think one of the things I say a lot is that if return on investment is your only criteria for investing, you will most likely feed your greed and biases.
Yeah.
So I think for me, the primary thing I look out for is the brain behind the business. Right. Regardless of how sweet your idea is, regardless of how amazing you think your idea is, right, I think the person behind it is still a key determinant. Right. And by extension, now we can now talk about the team. Because in the first place, who has the idea? The person.
Driving the force.
So the business is like neutral. It's dependent variable. The independent variable here is the person driving the business. So I want to check, okay, what have you done before? What even inspired this business? Right? What do you know about persistence? Have you always chicken out of several things? So that I know that if trouble comes tomorrow, you chicken out. Right? How much of your own money have you put into this thing? How long have you stayed at something? Right? How much do you believe in this business? Because it's a thing, right? How long have you been doing something like this? Have you done anything similar before? What's your experience when it comes to this thing? Right? Have you led anything before? So this is like a key factor for me personally. Before we now talk about the business specific factors, right? Because when you're talking about risk in business, there's external risk, there's internal risk. Internal risk are the ones you can control. For example, I can determine how much I want to invest to curtail my own risk. But when I'm giving you the money, it's now external. So part of the way to measure or mitigate my external risk is to ensure that the person I'm investing with, I know that the person can also help me manage the risk well with the person's skills, the person's both soft skills and hard skills, basically. Right. So that's a key factor I look out for before investing in a particular business. For example, if you're investing in a public business now, you're talking about the management generally, right? How have they survived certain industry cycles?
Yeah.
How have they survived certain, for example, a company that has been able to thrive through COVID?
Yeah.
You see that now?
Yeah.
A company that has survived maybe certain bad press.
And they were
A
able
company
to-
that has been able to innovate over time. I was telling someone, I was giving an example of, this is not a paid PR, but if something is good, you
It's
can't
good.
deny it. I was saying that a company like MTN has found a way to reinvent themselves every year like a new brand. Somehow. And I think, if I'd give it up for the top 3 telecommunications in Nigeria, MTN, Glo, and Airtel. Somehow, every year there's something new that they're bringing up. So when you look at that cycle of innovation, and that's why I'm not surprised that one of the most valuable companies in Nigeria, top 10, about 2 or 3 of them are actually there. So you see that you can't actually detach this thing, and that's kudos to the management.
Yeah.
Right. So also product innovation is also part of it. Right. How well can you actually innovate? Because when you're analyzing businesses, it's in life cycles. There's the ideation, launch, there's the traction, there's the growth, there's the maturity, there's decline. If you do not know how to return back to ideation, you will decline. So if a business has been able to actually revolve around that life cycle very well, of course, there's a potential here. And not just so that I can quickly make money, that this thing can actually be profitable for long term. You understand?
Yes.
So basically that's it.
Wow. So the key takeaway for you is the fact that the dominant factor is the person.
I think the team is for me. Even when I'm talking to a group of some of my investors, they know that the major thing I emphasize on, because even if we think the idea is nice and we give you the capital, anything can happen. There can be a political something, so there can be an economic something. But the capital is now in your hand. Do we trust you to know how to swim through that wave and still, even if there can be losses.
Yeah.
Right? There can be losses. But how do you recover? Have you recovered before? So that's why for me, I think the person or the team, as the case may be, is a really big factor.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Talking about investors, why do you think investors lose so much money when trying to get into certain investment opportunities, even when it looks like the space is growing?
Okay. I think I even touched on that earlier on, that as much as it looks like the fintech space is really booming, right? It's growing. Why are people still losing money? I'll give you a practical case study. If you read this book by Ike, that's Ike of Access Bank, Living the Tarmac, he made mention of the fact that in the late 90s, there was this financial sector boom, right? He said, one of the things he said was that there's a lot of, in the urban space, a lot of people were opening finance outlet and things like that. And within the year or within that space, a lot of them also died back, right? Why? Many people just want to jump on a bubble. They don't even know what is obtainable.
Just join the
they
trend.
don't even know they don't have. It's just the noise.
Yeah.
For example, how many people are opening content studios because they believe that everybody's creating content? In fact, how many people are creating content because they believe that I think content creation is the new thing now? Meanwhile, if you check, and you can check it, majority of people that have lasted, even in the content creation scene, I'm talking about let's even tilt into comedians.
Yeah.
Or let me be broad. When you check them, they are either comedians. I'm not saying content creation comedians. I'm saying they are comedians at the core.
Yeah.
Content creation was just a trendy tool to express their comedian job. Or they are actors. For example, Macaroni is an actor. Shaggy is an actor. So they're actually artists naturally. It's not just about the fact that I'm just at home and this thing, and let me just create content. For example, there's this guy I enjoy so much. He's a medical student and he creates medical content. Because he's a medical student, content creation is just a tool to express the medical. For example, apropos doctor. If content creation stop being a tool today, whatever trend comes up after that, he will use it again as to express his content. So the same thing bring it into when you want to, whether invest in a sector or not. It's not really about this sector is what is the happening thing now. What's the core of that sector? What's the core? Right? What's the core business of that sector? That's why, it's not really about the sector. It's what business are you investing in this sector? So what's the core? It's when people lose sight of the core that just want to, jump on the bubble that they lose money. Because now, your attention is no longer about the business. It's about the bubble. Right? Which is why people lose money, basically.
I think that's one of the things that we should look out for, especially in this time, because it looks like it's very easy for anybody to just pick up their phone and come on social media and say, "Oh yes, guys, get into this thing." And
Of
you have
course.
it's just that herd
I was
mentality
still
where you
telling
just
someone something. I said now there's a lot of mobile apps people are developing that creators come and get on that they'll get paid. And I said this thing is not sustainable because people got on Facebook not
yeah.
to get paid.
It was just
People
a
got on Instagram not to get paid. You think getting paid is enough thing to compare people, but no, actually no, because you want to come to get paid to create. The real people that will make sure this thing is viable or is profitable for you to have money to pay the creators are people that are coming to watch. What does that tell you? The real thing is the traffic of people that just want to come and get entertained. That's why when you go on TikTok, people go there because they want to entertain themselves.
yeah.
When you go on Facebook, you want to whatever it is, but the core is not really. In fact, paying creators was like a reward for keeping people glued.
Glued to the platform.
So the first thing is actually, how do you have what it takes to get people glued? Right. So there's a lot of things that people just jump on, people just jump out because it looks like it's making money, but no. What's the core? What's the core business here?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's very insightful. And talking about sector trends, do you think that sector trends have become a distraction? And if yes, how do we cut through that noise to be able to, sieve out the noise and be able to access the real substantial thing?
Okay, so I would say that sector trend is like water. It takes the shape of the container it's poured into. Right. In the same light, I would say sector trends is neutral.
Okay.
It dependent on who is using it. Right. The same way, someone else will see a sector trend and still be able to maximize it to find the real opportunities there.
Yeah.
But the first indicator was the trend. And that person will just see the trend and jump in blindly. You see that now? So it dependent on the investor. That, okay, this is a trend. This shows that something is here.
Yeah.
But this is not enough indicator for me to put money there. For example, there might be a whole lot of noise around real estate in Nigeria right now. That's a sign that there's opportunity in it.
In this sector.
But it does not mean that every real estate is an opportunity. That does not mean. In fact, you can be saying the right thing to sell the wrong product.
You can be saying the right thing
To sell the wrong product. Yes. I've seen it a lot of times. That people are saying the right things. In fact, some people are using my video to sell the wrong product. What's it called? It's good to buy real estate. Is it? Real estate can actually be, you can put money into it and it can appreciate in value, yes. But at what stage? At what point? I tell people there's only one category of people that real estate can make rich. The real estate entrepreneurs themselves. Every other person, you have to go and get rich first in whatever industry you are in. Then you use real estate as a wealth retention tool. As a wealth retention tool. Not that, someone who is doing real estate as a business, telling you real estate made me a billionaire. You who is not in real estate business, think real estate will make you a billionaire. It's so, am I saying the right thing? Yes. But am I recommending the wrong product for you? Yes. So, the sector trend is neutral, is positive. Right? Sector trend is neutral. It's not positive or it's not negative. It's just there. How you use it determines what result you get out of it.
Wow.
How many people now are creating applications? How many people now are getting into tech? Only for them to discover that now that AI can code. Is tech the button? No. Only to discover that big tech firms, they are now laying off tech staff.
Because
and one of the things I said, this is I'm sure the video should still be on our YouTube platform. That I said that this is something I don't like to say publicly, that anything that you are doing that seems to put you on the same pedestal as a machinery is not sustainable. How do I put it now? I strongly believe
Yeah.
that the humankind is built for much more than to be relegated to just the just like assembly line. You know, when you enter like a food processing plant,
Yeah.
this machine carries it, put it
Put
somewhere,
into
another
another
machine
thing.
carries
Yeah.
it, put it somewhere, another machine carries it. Once there's an assembly line like that with human beings, it's only a matter of time. There will be a technology invented to replace you. Because now what you are doing, there's something I used to say that people that work from here upward would lead people that work from here downward.
Yeah.
What assembly line does is to relegate you to working, to using this part of your body to work.
Downwards.
And meanwhile, the way you maximize your humankind status is to use this place to work. So, for example, now, even the Facebook code, there's controversy that Zuckerberg did not code it. The Microsoft OS software, Bill Gates didn't code it. What he has was the idea, and he could arrange human beings as machinery and assembly line that code it for me. Do with this information what you want to do with it, but get get it. It can be controversial when you take it out of context.
Yeah.
It can be controversial when you take it out of context, because does that mean that you should not have art skill? Of course not. In fact, like I often say that the period of time where you learn art skill is so that you can have a knowledge of a particular, let me say, sector, so that you can now get into the creator space of that sector. But many people get stuck in the assembly line of that sector till they retire. They never get into the creator space of that sector, where you now start to ideate, invent, create, and not just operate or work on, or just like, how do I put it now? Manufacture what someone else has been able to ideate. Right? So the same thing, right? When we're talking about, how to really understand what sector and how to really get into a particular sector, it's the sector performance is neutral. What you do with it is where your profit or your losses.
Wow. I think if there's anything that has stood out for me so far is the fact that you always emphasize the individual and how it is very important for that individual to start to develop himself or herself above the average that has always been. And I think it is one thing that we honestly need to know at this point in time, because it looks like there are a lot of copycats. People don't want to ideate anymore. They just want to come on media and they say, okay, this person is this, let me do this too. And it just makes sense that if we would really get the best out of ourselves as humans, we have to,
let me just chip in something there, which I think would help. I'm young, so I don't want to say young people, but which I think will help a lot of people. There's a lot of, I'll say this, we live in a world of standardized lies, institutionalized lies, and it's in a bid. It's what they call the matrix. I'll just say that whatever you are doing, that's at least is either number one, you are already doing it at the creators, from a creator standpoint, or it is transitioning you actively. You are conscious of it, that this thing is going to transition me to a creator standpoint. Is beneath the human level. It's beneath the human level.
Wow.
It's actually beneath the human level. Even if that's where you are starting from, it should be a transition point. You use tools. Don't become the tools that another human being is using to produce. You're supposed to. So even if, that's why I said that once you are in an assembly line to create something, it's sooner or later a technology will be invented to replace you. Because actually, a human being is not meant to be a tool. You are meant to be a creator. You're meant to be a creator. Right? And which is where the concept of entrepreneurship comes in. You see a problem and your creative being steps in to solve it by creating an enterprise that is profitable. The people you now bring out to say, you have this skill, you have this skill, you have this skill, you have this skill. to come and help you actualize it.
Yeah.
They should also now see. That's why I said that employment should either transition you to becoming a co-stakeholder in where you're working,
Or go
and start your own. But once you just get stuck there, I'm an accountant,
and that's what you do.
and very soon now, hope you
have a software.
context, you like go and. But now, you can actually earn a law degree in 6 months. I think in Canada, maybe a kind of law degree, but it's a matter of time. I'm saying it right. I would never send my child to school to study mass communication. I would never.
Can I ask why?
Because if you want to do broadcast journalism, right, you can easily go to, for example, Ebony Live TV now as an academy. I would rather send you to Ebony Live Academy.
That would be hands-on.
To go and study broadcast journalism. To go and study filmmaking. So that education as we know it to be
is changing.
In fact, let me say, Apostle Warren said something recently that I really love. He said, hope you know that education is for people's business. So when you see a new course you want to buy, someone is selling to you. You might not need it. And I'm talking to you as someone who has certifications.
Emphasis on this.
You know, most of the time when I talk about, people don't know that I'm not just acquiring info. That's why I hardly even mention it. So someone who has certifications, but some of them I just after going there, I'm like, this is useless. I made. Let me read something that I posted. This is yesterday. I said, where mentorship is effective, there won't be need for mushroom books and courses. Just by being with someone, you can complete several curriculums required for your vision. We live in a world of polished anomalies because we have compromised the true order. See, this studio that we are in now, the media executive that is doing this now, if I have a teenager that wants to go into media, he doesn't need to go and be watching YouTube videos or buying books on how to be a millionaire creative or how to be a millionaire media person. He just needs to come and do internship with this media executive. And if the mentorship is effective, number one, the media person is interning with has good vision and is growing.
Yeah.
Right? It's not stuck also. He will learn how to scale. That's one. If the person becomes successful, he will learn how the person did it to growing a media business. If the person now has branches all over the world, he will learn how to build a multinational. He would not need any book. Let me refer back to this book by Ike. He was talking about the fact that how did they learn how to build certain culture that they built Access Bank with? Because they learned in GT Bank. So a lot of people that become authors, in fact, there are some books. I picked up a book recently, and after reading it, I said this book is not for me. It sounds like pride, Abi. No knowledge is waste. It's a lie. Some books are useful for you because actually your level of knowledge. Okay, for example, is Queen Premier available for you at this point?
Not at all.
You see that now. So actually, there are some books you pick up because you've not had. You can be reading the book. The book that I said is no longer valuable for me. Someone else can pick it up at 50. Yeah. And people saying, "Wow, this is amazing." Because even at 50, you've not been able to learn what you're supposed to have learned
back then.
Let me just say that.
Wow. If I can quickly chip in this, there's something called the 1% of the 1%.
Yeah. In fact, it's right now it's 0.1%.
That makes it look like the very efficient persons are just in a very exclusive circle.
Yeah.
So it looks like there's a lot of persons at the basal level. Is there anything that you've noticed or figured out that, okay, this is what keeps more people at this basal level?
It's the level of information you are exposed to. I used to tell my story very well now that if I didn't go to start living with my uncle, I would never be here. I would never be the Adesina everybody knows today. Never. Before I got there, my dream, work in NTA, get a job, maybe become programs director. That was because that guy, I think he was driving one Volkswagen like that. And then there was my neighbor that has a Nissan Primera. Go and Google that car. 1990 something Nissan Primera. That was everything. And then open a provision store for my wife in front of our house. That was all my dream. But I got to a place where I was sleeping with 4 cars in the compound.
Yeah, looking like
And this guy is like a ritualist. And he would take us out, during holiday we are plenty in the house. Even to feed the few of it as well. This guy will bring all of us from all our houses and he's feeding us without. In fact, every time he goes out, come back, there's snacks. He will even carry us. Maybe he's just bored. Carry us out to Mr. Biggs. Then tantalize us. Then and then there was one day I can't forget. It was Spa in Lagos. He took us there, and he just looked at a couple. I think 2 of my elderly cousins, and he said, "Go there, pick any phone that you want." Yeah. So seeing that exposed me. Now that's at a level.
Yeah.
Exposed me to certain possibilities. And one of the things I saw that he was doing was that I was reading. I started reading too.
Wow.
Warren Buffett's dad was a judge. And in fact, I think he owns an investment firm. Bill Gates' dad was not a poor person. In fact, Zuckerberg was in Harvard. Do you know how much Harvard school fees was? Or is rather. So when you look at these people, there's a certain... Dangote is from Dantata. But the last father was a former governor of Lagos State. Elumelu is from a middle income. But when he was acquiring UBA, you hear that he led a group of investors.
Private investors.
At a point in time, these people encountered certain people. That's why what I still wrote, mentorship. Is not... See, all this... Some people... I get message, I want to get mentored. I can't mentor you. This idea of paid mentorship is because there's an anomaly.
Yeah.
Jack Ma will say, fresh out of school, he doesn't say go and get a good job. He said go and find a good boss. Because it is the under mentorship that get exposed to certain what you can't find in books. You think what it takes to be the multinational is in one book. You can have an idea, but
the real
certain,
deal
in fact, certain deals to close. Someone will have to say, do business with him. Do 1,000-page pitch deck. Someone has to say, do business with him. So when you realize this, you realize that that's why it looks as if they say C students employ A students. Because C student knows that I don't really know much. Let me build relationship. A student is like, I know I can enter.
I have my papers.
At the end of the day, you use your papers to work for someone that knows how to build relationships. So why do you think your people are kept poor even with their certifications, with their everything? Because number one, information. Number two, also they don't get to that creator space, and which is what C students get into. That's why they are sports people. They look at what's one thing that I have. Let me cook myself there. Is it football? Creator space. Right? But we start, the masses just want to get a job. They just want to earn a living. Right? Which is not an insult.
Yeah.
Which I said, access to information is actually the disparity. That I believe that if most people get in touch with it, it might take long. It's something to even hear. It's another thing to see.
See it, yeah.
You can be saying, that's what I'm saying now. Right? Why do I say that it's possible to start a business and make 10 million in 1 week and people came at me and all those things? Because, in all honesty, see, that's why I don't reply trolls. They are doing so innocently. They honestly don't think it's possible. They think you have to maybe steal or do something. A lot of people even call me a fraud. Meanwhile, someone somewhere has not even... It's still idea. But he knows who and who to call to raise the money.
My God.
So, but people will fight it because it's really it's something that you have to. That's why sometimes when people I said, let it just be out. 5 years time when they come to know, they'll come and watch again.
This guy was right. Wow. Talking about business, what are the factors that makes a business investable at scale? Despite the space that such business is operating.
So there's something I saw recently, and it was saying something in the line of that most businesses that made people wealthy, they are boring businesses. So it might look like, for example, I hope a lot of people thought, Amazon was going to fail.
Yeah, thought it was a fluke.
Who's going to buy anything online? Who is going to? But even apart from that, there are businesses that, for example, growing up, don't like, how many of us, and which I say sometimes you can't get some ideas. Even angels can't give you your dream. Pardon me, that's exaggeration. Except you're actually in the
Right
circle
environment.
where they are talking about it. I can never ideate starting a cement business. Is not, because I've actually never been. Maybe now that I'm not playing in the real estate space, but even in real estate, I'm playing in the investing space, not really in the construction space. So I might not see the opportunity in cement or in steel or in sugar. Why have I gravitated towards it? So let me highlight some business I've done. Selling clothes. I was with my brother whose wife used to sell clothes.
That was how you
Selling food. Growing up, my mom used to make snacks. Selling electronics. I used to have a friend in school who used to sell gadgets. So when you see all these things, selling, going into real estate, I worked with a real estate firm. Getting into investment, real estate firm had an investment arm. Or, I started watching, my uncle introduced me to some books on business and investment. You can see that somehow, your environment can limit whatever it is you can know how to do. So when it comes to how do you know what business to invest in, at scale, regardless of how the sector is doing, right? It is, I like that question because now you focus on the business. And I've given some criteria before. Let me, number one, the team. Number two, the innovation potential. How well have they been able to innovate? Someone was asking me what business, was talking about stock recommendation. And I said, 2 ways, just to keep it simple, 2 ways to know what stocks or what business to buy. Number one is either you are in the circle where you know what is going to happen. Or number two, you're actually following the business. When I say following, I mean you read the annual reports. So you can see the trajectory. Apart from that, maybe now there's now the day traders that can use technical analysis to check all those things. Now, basically, when you're using day trading and using technical analysis, like you're doing forex, what are you checking? Basically, what you're checking is sentiment of the investors. Market sentiment, that's what they call it. Market sentiment is you are checking the aggregate of people's reaction to the business performance. That's what you're checking. Which now causes what we now call volatility or fluctuations, rather. Sorry, not volatility. Fluctuations. Of the market. So investors think they buy, it's good, there's now bullish. Investors is now bearish. So what you are checking, that fluctuation is a aggregate of investors' reaction to what they think the core business is doing. So when you check, so that's I said, you have to go back to the core business. So number one, the team in charge. Number two, how well are they been able to ideate the product, the innovation over time, right? Number three is that what's the growth trajectory of this industry? They are a dying industry. For example, VCDs, DVDs, TVs. When was the last time you watched TV? Very soon, I'm sure very soon, this old smart home, very soon there will just be a button that will just project on our screen, on our wall.
That will just be an empty
I strongly believe. Or there will just be a way that your tablet or your laptop can just easily project. Maybe the camera will be able to be flipped. That once you flip here is camera, once you flip back is projector. And once you're watching any movie, you can easily cast your screen to the wall. Simple. So there's a point. So that at that time, when Netflix was getting introduced, DVDs and VCDs were declining. So that's another thing. Are you in a growing industry or a declining industry? That's another thing, right? And one other thing I would say before we move on from here is that when team is checked, innovation of the product is checked, industry life cycle is checked, right? One other thing you want to check before you really say you want to invest, right, in certain industry, it would be you. What exactly are you looking for? Private equity investors, they want to buy a business to resell the business for profit. For them, that's all it is. But there's some investors that really want to be a part of a business for long term. They really want to see the business continue to grow, continue to thrive. right? So they are not, except they get to a point where they don't trust the management anymore, or the business itself now start declining. But they're actually in it, in as much as you are adding on to something good.
Good.
But many private equity investors, they just want to, what's it called, get in, package it in a way like Warren Buffett would say, redress it and then sell it off.
Sell it off.
So when you check those 4 categories, I think regardless of whether the sector is boring, the sector is overlooked, you will see the core business and know whether it is worth investing or not.
Wow. I think one thing that you've mentioned so far is the fact that, a business can be doing amazingly well now.
Yeah.
And then in a few years' time, you would see that, this business is out of the place.
Definitely.
So it means that when we want to check out how a business is doing, we must also do the long-term look at it, right? And if there's anything that you've always stood for over time, and which you've also mentioned here, is the fact that when you're investing, you should look more at the business venture of the investment and not just having to just. So for you, what would it be? How do you justify the potential for long-term growth of a company, irrespective of the space that it's operating in?
Okay, so for example, there can be short-term industry wave.
Yeah.
There can be short-term,
just like a bubble.
Yeah. There can be. Bubble can even be different a little bit, because a bubble can be that something will crash, like bubble can be that there's like a balloon, there's nothing inside. There's no value inside. It's just inflated, whatever it is. So that means once you puncture it, you see there's emptiness and you lose. But short-term wave means that there's something here, but in the meantime it is inflated due to overexcitement. It will still come back to the normal. There's actually something there. For example, a company can intrinsically be worth, let's say per share, 1,000 naira. But because of maybe they are introducing a new innovation, whatever, there's a whole bubble about it. Suddenly, because of investor sentiment, the price shot up to 2,500. It will take you to now look at such business and say, this business has value, but at this price, it is not. To now say, I will invest in this business, but I will wait until the wave calms down. But I will still invest in it. It is not an entire bubble. It's just a short-term wave. Getting into it at that peak means that you are going to buy at that overinflated price. Then at the end of the day, you lose money. Meanwhile, you lose money, but then it will still be stable, but you at least lose money first. So when it comes to what do I look out for when it comes to long-term thing, right? It's an equation of 2 things: entry and exit. Entry is, am I buying at the right price? For me to know that even on the long run, even if the growth is not one overwhelming spike, the little growth trajectory, the little sustainable growth, I'm still going to be okay. Right? There might not be one, what's it called? Because at the end of the day, it's not really about I want to buy for 1,000 and sell for 1 billion. Because don't forget that when you're investing in a business, what you are really doing is not first about making money. Money is a reward, right? So when I add value to a business with my finances, what I'm saying is this business is contributing value to the economy, to the society. And if it does not get capital, it can die. So let me add value to it. It is now in return with the value I'm offering to the society. When the customers now pay me back, pay the business now pay me. So you see, like that. So if my first idea is, how do I make money out of this business? That would be greed. Because now I'm not talking business language. I'm talking a speculator or a gambler's language. A gambler does not want to know. There was a time I used to play Naira bets.
Listen, we don't judge.
And you are not the owner of the dog. But you are saying this dog will win this race. You did not train the dog. But somehow your village people tell you that Aja number 4 is going to win the race. Why? Because you don't really care about the dog. All you care about is just... So at a point, I remember there was a time we put our lunch money together. We bet. One of my friends knelt down. God, please. Did God tell you that this dog is going to win first? And there was a day, we won 1,000 and lost 5,000. So you can see, and people do it though. People do it too. For example, when you bought that land, and this is something I've always advocated for. When you buy land, what's the business what's the business contribution of that land? Because you just assume that land just make money, land just appreciate in value. You might not be doing anything, but someone is doing something. When you buy Bejuleki or Ekpe, you might not do anything, but Lagos government is doing something.
Doing something around.
Dangote is doing something around it. So if they are not doing anything, there is no appreciation. It is as development comes,
the land also increases in value.
Go to. Why don't you go to? There's a place in Abia State called Umu Ogeli. Then after Umu Ogeli, there's now Abala. Why don't you go and buy land inside Abala? Abala is the only place where you only see car once a month. And I served there, that's why I can know.
Wow.
When you get to Abala, it's like you are back in 2002.
Throwback.
I apologize for anybody from Abala. But that was, maybe it has changed now. I was talking about 2019 when I was serving there. So why don't you go and buy land there? And assume that next year when you come, 5 billion. Because nothing is happening there. So that means that every investment is tied to an economic activity. An economic activity. So once we start sidelining all these things, to start focusing on just the returns, that's where we miss it. But we are really looking at for long-term purpose, is this business or the product is offering, does it have potential for long-term use? Or if peradventure one technological advancement comes and gets introduced, does this business have the potential to quickly adapt? Samsung started as a grocery store. But they've been able to metamorphose into an electronics empire. Does the business have the management to quickly see and quickly? There are banks that start as a merchant bank or microfinance bank, and they're able to grow into commercial bank. You can start as anything. You can start as anything, but but based on your long-term stand in the business, that's why it's still management. It's still the team, it's still the founder, the visionary of the business. You say, you know what? Because what is currently making you the number one business today might be the reason why you would end up going out of business. Case study, Nokia and BlackBerry. Simple.
Thank you so much, Mr. Adesina. I think one of the things that you always make sure to always bring in when you're talking about investments is the factor of due diligence. It's not you just feeding on or just entering anything they give you. Have you also sat down to check what you are trying to enter into? So I think my question would be, what does smart due diligence means to you in the perspective of investors with substantial capital? I'm not talking of small money.
Let me quickly say something. And I believe it because see, one of the reasons why I say something like this is because I'm really passionate about people building wealth. I know I've made it simple. Building wealth, what does it mean? Building businesses. When it comes to due diligence, see, most of the question you're asking me is because already a lot of nonsense has been taught. That's why we even need to be. This thing should be common knowledge. It should be common knowledge. Right? There's a lot of investment concepts that should never have even existed
in the first place.
Should never have even existed. Finance people know. They know. For example, why should something like default swap? I'll explain what default swap means. Maybe I'm not sure when I get the term correctly, but it's the fact that, let me use the case of the housing crisis of 2008. It means that you are buying a particular investment that is a loan, is like a package loan, like packaged mortgage. Then people are not selling it as an investment. That the mortgage there, which is the core business in that investment package, the mortgage there, they have high default rates. Me, I'm now shorting that. I'm betting against it. You are saying this investment will go up. Me, I'm saying it to go down because it has high default rates. The question is, why on earth should there be anything as an investment package that has a mortgage plan or a package of loan that has high default rates? Because some people behind the scene are already doing some criminal activities. So that concept was invented. Why? Because some people were trying to boycott. That's many of
Wow.
the concepts is actually because many of the things we even taught, TAUGHT, many of the things we teach now, they are in a bit to describe someone's portfolio. For example, this person has a diversified portfolio is a description. It's not supposed to be an action. It's not. Because I've not seen it is when, in fact, when people diversify, in quote, when they maybe a company wants to buy another company, most times it is extending their market dominance. You know, there's something called Ansoff matrix. Okay. There's market penetration, there's market development, there's product development, there's diversification. Market penetration, existing product, existing market. Product development, new product, existing market. Market development, existing product, new market. Diversification, new product, new market. What does new product, new market means? We have, what do they eat most in the north? Okay, for example, I was in the east recently and I discovered how popular pork is. Okay. So, for example, you have a thriving suya company in the north. They don't burn you where to sell pork. When you're expanding to the east, where they eat pork, and you know that they eat pork more than they eat beef. You now develop pork suya in the new. When you are going there, what you are primarily doing, is it not to expand your reach? It's not when you now get that, you now discover that, oh, let us develop new product because this one sells more here
than this.
What does that tell you? It's just a description of what we have to do actually in our expansionary plan. So diversification in that context is a description of what the market requires
later on.
But now we now make it look like you have to sit down and say, okay, we do this here, we do this here, we buy this here. Like it's an action you just do because it needs to be done. Why I'm saying all these things because due diligence should be person specific based on your knowledge of how these things work. This is why I say the people that make the most profitable investment decision are in two categories. Number one, entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs, or successful employees. Who are successful employees? People that have been able to rise through the ranks to actually becoming top executives and decision makers in their organization. People that make worse, although most of them also greed can come in. But ideally, because they've been able to contribute to the growth of certain establishments, they know what to look out for in another establishment before they say they want to invest in it. But you that will not build anything, you don't even know what is obtainable. So where does due diligence start from? Your own personal investment in yourself. Without knowing what is obtainable, you don't know what to look out for. A lawyer will draft nonsense for you. If you don't know what's obtainable, you read it and say, thank you so much.
And pay for it, sir.
So you understand? Yeah. So all these due diligence, all these checklists. And if you know that in this industry, you don't really have the knowledge there, can you move to someone who not just is talking about it, you know that knows what he's saying and has results? Move to the circle. That's why every industry, check the top people, they are inside, they know each other. So due diligence starts from you. It doesn't start from, okay, get a lawyer. What if you get a fake lawyer? Okay, and find out that has this determinant. What if it has determinant? It has that factor, but the factor is currently a bubble. So it takes you to really know what is obtainable, that you can look at what looks like it but not it. Wow. When you're a food entrepreneur, if someone tells you invest in this food business, you can check that. I was with a fashion designer. This is why I will wrap up this question. I was with a fashion designer friend of mine, and he made a statement. He said, when I see people that use influencers to promote, I know that those influencers are not paying. So when the person wants to invest in a food business, even if 20 celebrities are wearing it, he knows that I can't be carried away. It doesn't mean the business is doing fine. It knows. But an average person would think that ambassador won't leave. The person wants to invest. I think I answer. So your due diligence starts with what?
yourself.
Or find someone who is there, who knows what is obtainable beyond the smoke screen.
Actively.
Can see what is obtainable.
Wow. Investment as a concept is something that people can be very emotional about, and probably because it has to do with money, so people can be very emotional about it. So and I feel like one of the questions that people ask when they want to invest into something is they are quickly looking into the time of liquidation, like when will I get my RI back, when will my money come back. So as investors that really wants to maximize viable opportunities, how do you think they should regard liquidity and exit strategy when backing any kind of business venture?
You say as investors that want to what?
As an investor that wants to maximize
Value.
opportunities.
Yeah. Why I asked you back that question is because liquidity and exit depends on what you want. Right. Some people might, that's why traditional said we don't even do all this yama yama. At least not anymore. Okay. We used to, but not anymore. No, there are a lot of things I say now that I used to do.
Yeah.
I used to sell land banking. No, let's so that I'm not gonna dig out on video. I've started myself now. So, but if you know what is, it's not that it's wrong.
Okay.
That's why I say you can be saying the right things, but be using it to sell the wrong product. Right? When it comes to liquidity, like when do I get my money back? When do I exist? How can I get in short term and all those things? Number one, it's depending on what you want. But you can also be talking about maximizing and be talking about, let me say this. All these short-term investments, mid-term investments, long-term investments, they are anomalies. Or anomalies in context.
Okay.
Let me put it like that. Because ideally, business means financing a viable business.
Yeah.
Financing means, okay, I don't fully trust you. I can borrow you money, use it for 6 months, but you should also pay me back with profits. What will you call that in today? Short-term investment. But what did you do? I just borrow you money to start. Because I don't believe in it enough to give you money to use it for long-term.
Yeah.
If I believe that this thing has future and this one location is going to become 50 locations, this my 1 million is going to become 100 million, what will I tell you? Let me use it to own 5%.
Equity.
So you see that real investment is when I believe that this thing will be valuable for long. And I'm able to say, let me own a piece of it. Collect capital. I believe you will grow it. That the only time I want to exit is when I see that the management don't know what they are doing again. Or I don't trust their decisions again, and I exit. So that ideally, it's either I'm borrowing you money to do business for short term, or I'm actually investing long term
into.
So when it comes to investment, it is what? Long term. That's why treasury bills is debt. Bonds that are short term is what? Is debt. Why are they not saying that First Bank is issuing a share offer? They are doing initial public offering, they are doing come and buy their shares, and are saying, so you buy their shares for 6 months, you buy their shares. Why are they not saying that? Because investment is what?
Long term.
Every other one, bonds, what's it called? All these ones, like the Sukuk bond that came out, they are debt. They are debt. When we realize that, okay, if I want liquidity, short-term liquidity and short-term exit, what do I look out for? Debt. But I want to invest. It's long-term. How long has Mark Zuckerberg invested in Facebook? Why has he not pulled out yet? Why has he not said my liquidity, my exit period is Because the ideal thing is that when I'm investing in a business, I'm putting myself at the same pedestal with the founder.
It still boils back
as long as you are driving it forward, you still believe in it. My finance, because that means I believe that this thing will continue to grow in value. When we start thinking like that, number one, we won't even rush. We'll build capital. We save with peace of mind. I bought land. Congratulations. Is land a bad thing to buy?
No.
It's just... You see, it's what I'm saying. You will build capital with peace of mind. Because the person telling you to come and buy land is their business.
Is that land that they are actively selling?
That's the business. So you are spending money for them,
But
taking money from your own business to go and finance someone else's business when you should be building your own business. So that if I want to buy from you, is that I've built enough. What are you building? Oh, I like the concept of what you are building in this your estate.
Okay.
Then I want to own a unit there. Or is it a place I would like to build in now, or maybe build in later. That if I later sell it for profit, then it's because I don't want to build there anymore.
Yeah.
Or I have some cash. I want to maybe buy land banking for maybe my children or for just one rainy day for investment purpose. Okay, what place is selling now? I'm not going to buy from a developer. I'm going to go there and buy from the families and buy in hectares. Because I've built successful business.
Enough capital. Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
If you are going to pick, because the two concepts that we've been looking at is the business, the sector, right? If you are going to pick a good business in an average sector, or
that's the sector.
a good business in an average sector,
Okay,
right?
Or an average business
in a good sector, which would you pick?
A good business
In an
in an
average
average
sector.
sector. An average sector.
In a good business. In a good
or,
business
or
in
an average business
in a good sector. Yes.
I'll go pick a good business in an average sector.
A good business in an average sector. So you believe that the business has the capacity to, thrive despite of
A business
sector.
can even. A business. Do you know that a business can single-handedly pivot a sector? One strong business. When you look at the late 90s, how many banks really championed the Nigerian banking system? How many are they?
Not so much.
Probably GT and Zenith. And then we have the likes of what later became the First Bank, and then what later became the UBA. The sector can look average. One of the things, I'll say this here and just leave it at it. One of the things I'm advocating for in the real estate space is consolidation.
Okay.
And it's in two ways. Number one, I don't have anything about against real estate brokerage. Anybody should sell real estate. I don't mind. Anybody can sell real estate. But when it comes to real estate development, we cannot fill housing deficit with land banking. What do I mean? We cannot fill housing deficit with land banking offers. You can argue that, but they can start with land banking and grow into housing development. How many people have done it? There's need for capital to build. Why do I say consolidation? If you know that to own a real estate development firm, you need a license, and like a banking license. Before you have the license, you must have a minimum capital of 2 billion naira. So now, even if you start a real estate firm, we will know that it's better for 4 of us to come together and pool resources together. If you have some investor that wants to give you 100 million, and investors that want to give you 1 billion, we know that we have to come together and pool all the resources together to start one firm. And that one firm, even when we want to build an estate, we know that we have to put together to actually build a true project.
And not just buying.
But all this mushroom, Sanchez estate, Ronaldo estate, Messi estate that we are doing here and there, we are never going to fill housing deficit like that. We need consolidation.
Wow.
It's a question, ask yourself. You become a billionaire today. How many estates in Ibadan can you live in? Are they up to 5? So what are everybody building?
They are just selective estates.
And Lara said something. The owner of Landway said something. Like I said, this is not the paper. It doesn't even, I'm not sure he even knows me. But if you are saying something, he said, the reason many things sell in Nigeria is because there's a widespread culture of mediocrity. People don't even know what is
viable,
they don't know
achievable.
They don't know what should be. So whatever you give to them, they celebrate it. There are some projects that even me, when I remember I used to sell this project, shame, it will wear me kaftan. Go to Lagos. Show me another estate that's like Lakowe Lakes. Or that is like Eco Atlantic. Yeah, maybe we have, even when you check the likes of VGC, put it on the pedestal with Lakowe Lakes. See the infrastructure, proper
the development,
estate, proper layout. You enter there, it's like you've left Nigeria. So I won't mention names. Someone showed me an estate nearby here in Ibadan. I said, also ni ma wa kaje kukale. And I look at it, and I was looking for the AJ like this. Like, where's the AJ? Where's the AJ? Where's the AJ, please? Where's the? And I'm like, is this it? You can tell that person has not been in Lacoelix. Did Lacoelix pay me?
No.
And they travel out though, and they still come back. But they know that you don't want much.
So they just give you the little and then
You just want to become landlord so that you can pepper your brother that do you get land? Me, I get land. Meanwhile, in your 60s, you will still be a broke landlord.
actively waiting for your tenants to
People
pay.
that they are using to champion, come and buy this land, come and buy that land. Are they not successful in their career, in what they are doing? You to face your business. You will buy the choicest property.
Assets.
You say land will get expensive, there will be another emerging location, and by then you'll be able to buy, if it's in your 40, you'll be able to buy hectares that your children will be able to have 10 hectares of land to inherit with ease. And if you want to buy a house or you want to, you will, one of the things my kind of luxury is that my house now, there's a place, for example, you can park 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, over 8 cars in my compound. Apart from the main house, when what's it called? We started to, pride entered us, right? Because of how much land we still have around the house, extra 3 bungalows was built on it. Guess what? There's still about 1 plot on each side empty. I don't know them say 1 plot. Maybe 100 square meter, 150 square meter. Yeah. But that you can still build the average Lagos 3-bedroom terrace on. In fact, there's a place where there's swing, there's trampoline that we only use once a year, except when we have visitors. So when I'm thinking of my own family home, if you're not giving me anything like that, I don't want. Where I can come out in the evening and sit out, and someone is not seeing another person is not seeing my bed chest. In some houses now, if you're saying something in your compound, your neighbor can hear you. Because when we truly start, what's it called? Demanding for more, we can do more. And that's why I said even a business can power a sector. When we start having tangible development in real estate, financing will come. People will know. Why do you think that Sukuk bond was oversubscribed? It's a bond. Because people would rather prefer what I can put money into. That it might be small. I think it's just 17% that they're offering per annum or 18%. It might be small, low, but is it stable? Yes. Can I get it? I'm okay.
Let me just stay here.
Right, rather than all these are mushroom. I'm not saying when I say all this kind of thing, I'm myself inclusive. So this whole concept of average business in good sector or real estate in Nigeria is top 3 sectors in Nigeria right now. Viable. Real estate is not number 3. The potential, but the way we are doing the businesses in this sector, at least the way, and that's what happens when the barrier to entry in certain sectors are too low. Right. So I believe that we need consolidation. But if you ask me, I rather prefer a great business
in an average sector.
What's the averagest sector in Nigeria right now? I don't know. Maybe selling flour. But if there's a solid business there's this guy now, drinks.ng. I don't know him. How many people are really, what's it called? For example, kids wear in Nigeria. But look at what Rough and Tumble is doing. So there are good businesses that in seemingly underlooked sectors. So good businesses anytime.
Wow. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. You've been able to, take us through a very clear exposition of having to, look at sector investing, how to filter, opportunities in the viable sector, and not just, approaching any sector like that. just focusing on the business venture
Yeah,
in this
sectors,
sector, and it's been amazing. Thank you so much,
you
sir.
for
It was
having
really an insightful one. Thank you for joining, or anytime you'll be watching this.